Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here. Today I want to talk about digital pianos, whether you're selling one or you're buying one. So this is basically about buying and selling digital pianos. So there's a few things to take into consideration when you're buying or selling a digital piano. And just for definition, a digital piano is anything that runs on electricity, a non-acoustic piano. It doesn't matter whether it's an arranger or a stage piano or a workstation or anything else, that is a digital piano. So the first thing you want to take into consideration, obviously, is the age. You don't want to buy something that's 10 years old, and you don't really want to sell something that's 10 years old either because you'll be very disappointed. The market is just not there. Now, there's people that go ahead and they buy the latest and greatest technology, and if that was 5 years ago and you spent $5,000 on a digital piano, something that maybe listed for a lot more, 6 or 7 thousand at the time, but you paid 5,000 and you got a great deal. And this is the problem because people that paid that kind of money figured, okay, I'm going to sell this for 4,000, maybe even 3,000, and that's a great deal because I paid $5,000 for this when I bought it. So the buyer is getting a great price. Well, that's not necessarily true because let's say that $5,000 digital piano that you bought 5 years ago and you're asking 3,000 for it now, there are digital pianos out now that will do more and do a better job at it for half the price than what you're asking for that old digital piano. So age has a lot of things to do with it. Let me back up a second and go back in time. In the year 2000, I bought a Korg Triton Pro X and I paid $3,000 for it cash, black market. And that was a deal because it was a lot more money brand new through a legitimate source. I happened to buy one that kind of fell off a truck, and I knew it. And that digital piano, that Korg Triton Pro X, lasted me over 10 years, and I wound up selling it for something like $1,500. So it kind of really held its value over 10 years. And when all is said and done, considering what I paid for it and what I got back for it, you do the math, I wound up owning that piano for about $15 a month over 10 years, which is great. And that's the kind of deal that you want to do. So, but things have changed. Technology keeps going forward. What you bought 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago has been improved upon. The price has been dropped, the features have been upped, and a lot of things have happened. 10 years ago, you didn't have triple sensor technology. I don't think you even had that 5 years ago. Now you have triple sensor technology. You have companies like Casio with the Privia models that have triple sensor technology. You have some of the Kawai models. You have some of the Yamaha models. A triple sensor technology is relatively new, but if you're selling or buying an older piano, chances are, in fact, chances are today, most pianos still are dealing with dual sensor. So age has a lot of things to do with it. And let's go into the keys. What type of keys, since we're talking about triple and dual sensor technology? How much noise does it make when you don't have it turned on? This sensor is triple and dual sensor technology, which you just touched on, and what kind of condition it's in. Now, the condition may look great on the outside, but on the inside, if you've been playing this thing 8 hours a day for the past 5 years, the condition on the inside is going to be pretty horrible. And you're not going to recognize that until you bring it home and you hear it, and so on and so forth. And today we have things like recording capability. There's a lot of keyboards that are capable of recording. And Today you can record onto a USB thumb drive and or an SD card, which is a little bit older technology. And you go back a little bit further, and they used to be able to record on a floppy disk. So things change. Yes, you can record. What can you record onto? Whether it's floppy or an SD card or a USB thumb drive, and so on and so forth. Then there's the connectivity. For connectivity, the standard 5-pin MIDI DIN. So if you have that, you're pretty much golden. You can connect to just about everything. But today, that's kind of being replaced with USB MIDI. So MIDI over USB. And that's the kind of thing you're looking for now too. Then some of the modern keyboards have Ethernet connectivity. And that's a whole different ball game altogether. And then you had some of the older keyboards yet, which had RS-232 or SCSI, which hooked up to something like an external drive, which we don't really use anymore, something like an iOmega, that kind of thing. You might remember that. Then there's polyphony. And, there was 32-note polyphony, 64-note, and so on and so forth. Today, the common polyphony is 128 and 256. Then you have something called half pedaling, and that's the damper or sustain pedal, the rightmost pedal that you'll find on an acoustic piano. The thing is, a lot of pianos come with a pedal. It looks like a pedal, but it's basically an on-off switch. When you have it depressed, it's on. When you lift up, it's off. There's nothing in between. So you might be playing a beautiful piece. You've got your sustain or damper pedal held down. And when you lift up past a certain point, all of a sudden, all of the sustain or damper, it's off. It just abruptly ends. So that's why you want half pedaling, meaning here's the pedal, and as far as you're pressing it down, when you lift up, it doesn't abruptly cut off. It just kind of smoothly becomes less and less, just like on an acoustic piano. But when you have a switch instead of a half pedal, when you get past a certain point, it just turns off. And that's pretty bad. So half pedaling is something that's pretty important. Okay, now, as far as pricing and all that kind of stuff, it seems the more expensive the digital piano, the longer it's going to take you to sell it. I had a Nord Stage 2, which I listed on Craigslist. I finally sold it, but it took a good 4 months to sell that. And the buyer, of course, when you get into the more expensive pianos like the Nord Stage 2, was very knowledgeable. He came over here. He took at least an hour, hour and a half to check everything out. Not just the keys and everything, but the knobs. They should all feel uniform. One shouldn't be easy to turn and the other have a little bit more resistance. These are all things you need to take into account when you're buying something that expensive. And speaking of Craigslist, I have looked at Craigslist. I'm becoming familiar with the people that are selling and buying these things. You look at the Kurzweils. The Kurzweils, which are a very, very solid digital piano, can't go wrong with those. They aren't selling right away. They're taking their time. They'll eventually sell, but you might be listing it on Craigslist for a few months before it sells. And I had a guy that was on Craigslist that was trying to sell a Kawai VPC-1, which is a controller. It's a very specific thing. It's for pianists that like to control virtual pianos, that kind of thing, on their computer. That was there for probably 8 months before it sold. Now the pianos, the digital pianos I noticed that sell the fastest are the Casio Privia series. And I can speak with authority on that because when I had a Casio Privia PX330 and I wanted to sell that, I put that on Craigslist And within 5 hours, I had a buyer here with cash in hand. He bought it. End of story. Now, the reason for that, the Casios are affordable. They're really professional. And people, whether they're a pro or a beginner, are interested in those because they do such a phenomenal job for beginners and advanced players. And they are priced to go. So when I listed my PX330 and sold it within 5 hours, boy, was I surprised. But then I looked at other PX series Privia Casio models, and I found that those were selling pretty fast too. The buyer that I sold to said, yeah, he was looking for months for a PX330 or 350. And so when mine finally listed, he just grabbed it, and he was really lucky to have gotten that, because if he didn't get it, he's looking at another 3 to 5 months before something equivalent in the previous series gets listed. So, as far as being able to sell very fast, the Casio Privia is a good investment. You'll get most of your money back, and you will sell it pretty fast. With the Kurzweils, you can get most of your money back. It will not sell that fast. The more expensive the unit, whether you've got a Korg Kronos or a Nord Stage 2, yeah, it will sell. You will lose some money, but it's going to take some time to sell that unit. The more expensive, the longer you're going to wait to sell it. So, and same thing with the Yamahas and the Kawais and the Rolands and all that kind of stuff. So, Privia seems to have a good turnaround time for selling, and you can get some good deals with it. But the thing to watch out for, the older the unit is, the more wear and tear it may have on the inside, unless you can somehow confirm or believe your buyer that they bought this for their daughter, and the daughter didn't really have an interest in it. They played it for 2 weeks, and it sat in their living room for 2 years. Those are good deals. But you need to be able to ascertain if that's really the case. If that's really the case, that's a good deal. Now, another problem that you have is you have people that, they got a $5,000 digital piano, or at least that is the manufacturer's suggested retail price. They paid $3,000 for it 5 years ago. Now they go on to Amazon or whatever, and they're trying to sell it. And it's the funniest thing, because you go on to Amazon and you're looking for a particular make and model, which the MSRP is $3,000, and you can get one from, seller XYZ, a legitimate retailer, for about $2,500, an open box item or whatever. And then you look at the used deals, and you've got these people that are trying to sell it used for more than the MSRP because they paid more than that 5 years ago. So that's a problem right there. You've got sellers that think because they paid X amount of money, they should be able to get 80% of X. And it just doesn't work that way when the current selling price is about 60% of X. So anyway, these are things you have to look out for. Age. You want something with USB connectivity because that's the latest and greatest. You want to be able to record yourself, whether it's onto an SD drive, an SD card, or a USB thumb drive. USB thumb drive is probably the better bet because the SD cards mean they are older units, and older units tend to be used more, and so the actions tend to be worn out a little bit more. So anyway, these are just a few of the things that you want to look for when buying a digital stage piano or a workstation or an arranger or any other type of electronic digital piano. Hope this has helped you out. Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.